AAA games are either super exciting or really disappointing for gamers everywhere. With big budgets and huge marketing, those games are always in the spotlight. But quietly, AA games are making a big difference with their creative ideas. In this video, we are going to talk about 20 AA games that are simply better than most AAA games out there. And I really think it's time we give these games more love because they bring something fresh and exciting to the gaming world. Anyway, we've got a lot of fun and exciting games to talk about here. So let's get started off with number 20. We have Outcast: A New Beginning. You sometimes have to wonder where certain styles of gaming came from, and for certain non-linear titles that have open-world settings. Now you have a certain title from 20 years ago to thank. It's a title that is finally getting a sequel in Outcast: A New Beginning. The best part of this game is the open world and the movement abilities, especially the ability to rocket through the environment at high speeds. It's incredibly fun and satisfying thing to do. However, the game's combat is fairly basic and the story is not bad. So I only recommend this if you enjoy this type of gameplay and open world experiences. Next, over at number 19, we have Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden. This is a newly released title developed by Don't Nod. While the studio might be best known for the adventure title Life is Strange, they have also delivered an action RPG experience before with Vampyr. In this one, players take the role of a few characters considered Banishers. It's their job to cleanse the world from different hostile supernatural forces and ghosts that roam the area. However, during a case that went wrong, your partner gets killed, and her spirit is all that remains. Now you'll have to fight to keep her alive, and try to find a way to bring her back to the land of the living before it's too late. Moving on to number 18, we have The Surge 2. The Surge series puts you in control of someone strapped to an exosuit and trying to survive a circumstance that they have no idea how they got involved in. While the first Surge missed more marks than it hit, the potential was still clear. And who better to make those needed improvements than the company that made the first one? And The Surge 2 is a vast upgrade offering better visuals, brighter looking environments, and above all, much more refined combat and difficulty. However, the biggest improvement was in the story and how enjoyable it felt to push through to find out what exactly was going on. Anyway, this main games alone are worth your time, but some special DLC will give you extra content to enjoy in this brutal set of settings. And next at number 17 is No Rest for the Wicked. Moon Studios is arguably one of the more trustworthy developers out there, especially because of what they did with Ori series. This time around, they have an early access game called No Rest for the Wicked, and it's one that focuses a lot more on the action you'll be undertaking. You play as a holy knight who sets off to fight against a pestilence that is gripping your homeland. That would be enough of a challenge on its own, but you'll soon find that there are other figures who want to use this plague for their own devices, including trying to take over the kingdom itself. Anyway, if you're a fan of this type of gameplay, No Rest for the Wicked is totally worth checking out, even though the game is still in early access. Let's move on to number 16 and talk about Kena Bridge of Spirits. If you're looking for a charming yet deep adventure experience, then this game might be the one to get. You'll play as a young girl called Kena, a spirit guide who ventures out to help those that pass move on to the spirit world. It is just a really fun adventure with pretty big open areas, fun dungeons to explore, puzzles to solve, and pretty simple story to uncover. There is combat here as Kena uses a staff to fight off enemies, while the staff itself can turn into a makeshift bow to sink some arrows into an enemy. The world is also pretty gorgeous. It's often compared towards a Pixar animated film. But there is one shortcoming fans might find with this game. That's the fact this is a relatively short game. It takes players under 10 hours to complete, so if you're after something to quickly get through, then this is a game we would recommend giving a try. Down at number 15, we have A Plague Tale series. The predecessor of the recently released A Plague Tale Requiem was an absolute dream of a game, and it walked so the sequel could run. This series tells the story of Amicia and Hugo, The game is set in 14th century France and everything is taken over by the Black Death. Players will go on a journey that includes stealth, survival, puzzle solving, and a little bit of combat. These games also look fantastic, and with its eerie and mysterious atmosphere, there is not another game on the market that expresses 14th century France quite as this does. There is no wonder that the first game was up for so many Game of the Year awards in 2019, and the sequel is even better. Next, over at number 14, we have Ghostrunner. Ghostrunner is a cyberpunk action platformer co-developed by Slipgate Ironworks and One More Level. In this game, the world has already ended, and those who survived it, like yourself, are just trying to live on. You control this samurai as he speeds through risky environments using skills like dashing, jumping, wall running, and grappling. And you'll encounter different enemies that you need to defeat carefully, as many of them can take you down with just one hit. There is also a sequel where players can expect the same style of gameplay as the first installment, but with a few additional tweaks. However, this hack-and-slash title is incredibly fun and great for those who like cyberpunk-style games. Moving on to number 13, we have Vampyr. This one might be a bit of an unusual game on this list, but let us explain. One of the biggest challenges for new vampires is trying to stay connected to their human side while fighting the urge to drink blood. And you play as this doctor who has just become a vampire, yet still wants to cure the people of 19's London from a disease that is going around. But your body craves blood, and so a choice must be made. Likewise, your actual image of the character changes from your choices. The ability to wrestle with good and evil is a cool concept in a vampire game, and there are tons of boss battles to fight and skills to gain. However, being the super nice vampire is less fun than being a little bad in this game though. And next at number 12 is Divinity Original Sin 2. This game is hailed by many as one of the best action RPG games of the modern era, and it's easy to understand why. The game gives you a vast world to explore and a near infinite amount of options for you to choose from. You'll have multiple races you can be in terms of character, and play either solo or with friends in co-op mode. The turn-based combat is just as deep with over 200 skills to learn. Games like this one and Baldur's Gate 3 are huge indicators of how incredible games with turn-based combat can be. They inspire creativity and strategy on a whole different level, and are equally deserving of praise as two of the greatest storytelling role-playing games out there. Let's move on to number 11 and talk about Lies of P. We all know the story of Pinocchio, but as with all tales, they sometimes can be changed drastically depending on who's telling them. When you look at a game like this, it's easy to get wrapped up in the aesthetic and the Souls-like combat. In Lies of P, you are a very different version of the legendary puppet, and Pinocchio's journey will be much more intense this go-around. You are on a quest to find your maker in the city of Karat, a place corrupt to the core where monsters are everywhere. And you'll need to help Pinocchio become stronger to face these dangers that lie ahead. But that's not all. How the puppet handles truths and lies will affect both him and the world around him, so be careful what you choose to do and say. Down at number 10, we have Little Nightmares. Horror comes in all shapes and sizes, with Little Nightmares being another excellent example of that. There are 2 games in this series so far, with a third on the way. Each game puts you in unique worlds where you play as tiny characters trying to escape the big terrors that lurk all around you. You must use the terrain to your advantage and avoid being captured. Each level of the game has a unique and fun design, and plenty of surprises keep you on your toes as you play. While it may not be the deepest horror experience ever, it is a unique one-in-one that many people will enjoy if they were to try it out. And next, at number 9, we have Control. Remedy Entertainment is famous for the Alan Wake and Max Payne series. But their latest game, Control, also impressed players and turned out to be a big surprise. Control has a fascinating story that often makes you think and encouraging you to pay attention to everything around you. The game combines great movement, awesome powers, and fun gunplay in a balanced way. The world is also beautifully designed with tight maps and plenty of neat details. And there are many references to the Alan Wake series, so fans of the franchise will definitely enjoy Control. Next, over at number 8, we have Evil West. They say the West was built on legends, but not all of those legends come from our own version of the Earth. In Evil West, for example, their legends tell of how the West was overrun by vampires, and the only one left to stop them was the last surviving member of a place that trained cowboys to be vampire hunters. This game lets you enjoy some fun, fast, and visceral combat using a mixture of guns and gauntlet attacks, as you try and wipe out the menace of the vampires from the West. And the storyline is pretty interesting with sci-fi and horror elements. You can also travel across the country, upgrade your technology to fight, and team up with a friend in co-op to help you wipe out the vampiric horde together. This game just looks like one of those fun games that you can play to have an absolute blast. Moving on to number 7, we have The Sinking City. H.P. Lovecraft is hailed today as one of the masters of horror. His works have been adapted into many forms of media, including video games. In The Sinking City, you'll play as a private investigator who is sent to a city called Oakmont. The interesting thing about this place is that it's partially sunken, and it just so happens to be invested with supernatural forces that are taking over the minds of the city's inhabitants. Outside of battling creatures, you'll need to solve cases in order to unravel the mystery of all that is going on around you. And fans mention that the way you investigate in this game makes solving puzzles more fun and motivating, unlike in any other games. Now next, over at number 6, we have Jusant. Many titles have tried to defy what it means to be a fantasy title or to give players a true sense of exploration. But in this one, you'll get a fresh twist on the game. That's because your goal in the title will be to climb up a massive tower and experience everything it offers on the way up. Whether you realize it or not, climbing up a large object is a puzzle in and of itself. After all, the way to solve the object is to find the best way to climb up it without tiring yourself out. However, Jusant is a great game for anyone looking to change things up, and it's perfect for sitting back and chilling while you play through it. Down at number 5, we have Nobody Wants to Die. It's always interesting to see what the gaming space will do with detective-style titles. And Nobody Wants to Die is another example of them pushing boundaries to come up with something clever. In this game, you play as a detective who is on the hunt for a serial killer. However, the twist is that you're in a future where people are willing to sacrifice quite a bit to get immortality, even though most times they're willing to sacrifice someone else to get it. You'll need to use incredible technology along with your smarts to figure out the truth and possibly save your soul in the process. And next, at number 4, is GreedFall. For years, the development team Spiders had tried to find mainstream success through a wide range of IP, but it wasn't until GreedFall that they truly found their breakthrough. It's a fantasy setting that actually comes off very different than most fantasy settings. And although the game carries a few minor flaws, it's definitely bold in trying something a bit different. It is very story-heavy and character-centric, but it's kind of like England's establishments in the New World, with the 13 colonies and all that history stuff, but with a nice fantasy twist. It was a really nice surprise for the third-person Western RPG-style one that I don't think often gets enough love. However, if they can just clean up the rough technical edges, the upcoming sequel could be something truly special. Let's move on to number 3 and talk about Remnant 2. There are all types of shooters out in the gaming space, so the challenge is making one that players will want to try out or replay endlessly. Remnant 2 meets all those expectations and even goes beyond them in many ways. In the title, you are part of the last remnants of humanity who must fight across numerous worlds to defeat a foe that wishes to destroy existence. And when it comes to this kind of action RPGs, nothing is better than putting your character build up against vast hordes of enemies and seeing if you did enough to take them down with minimal effort. You can choose to wield massively powerful weapons or use whatever you have to heal yourself and others. Anyway, if you're up for that kind of gameplay, Remnant 2 is definitely a game you won't want to miss out on. Moving on to number 2, we have Bright Memory Infinite. This is a hack-and-slash FPS game created by a single developer in his spare time. And a full-length expanded version of the game was also released in 2020 called Bright Memory Infinite. Gameplay has players take control of Shelia, using her guns, sword, and supernatural abilities to take down enemies. The character has abilities like telekinesis and energy blasts, which make the gameplay really fun. The attacks and creative combos are often compared to the hack-and-slash game Devil May Cry. However, we're still left wondering what to expect with this mysterious action-packed FPS, but so far the gameplay is quite remarkable for a one-man team. Finally, at number 1, we have Atomic Heart. Many developers wonder if single-player titles are dying or aren't worth making anymore. Well, Atomic Heart is proof that they're doing just fine. Not long after its release, the game had millions of players within it, and plenty of buzz and praise for its familiar yet fun take on the FPS genre. The game occurs in an alternate history where the Russians built a utopia, but things fell apart when their robots went haywire and their mutant experiments broke loose. You play the man trying to survive the madness while learning what happened in the utopia. In the game, you'll have special weapons and abilities that you can use to take out these robots with really fast-paced, satisfying combat. This is one of those games that gives you a pretty nice big area, including a lot of interiors and exteriors full of bizarre, weird, sometimes beautiful stuff. This game tells a weird story in a really weird way in a great open world. And overall, Atomic Heart is a really worthwhile experience. Besides the games I talked about in this video, there are a few more games I'd like to recommend. These games are quite popular, but just in case you haven't heard of them, which I highly doubt. They are Kingdom Come Deliverance, Shadow Warrior 3, Hi-Fi Rush, Cuphead, and last we have Sifu. Of course, there are so many other games, though, that we couldn't squeeze on this list. So I'd love to hear your choices down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.